and welcome to North American Ag Spotlight. Our guest today is farmer, speaker, farm family coach, and author of the books Farming's InLaw Factor, Building Your Farm Legacy, and Farm Family Coach Insights. I'd like to welcome you, Elaine Froese.
Nice to see you, Chrissy.
How are you doing?
We're doing well on our farm. We have a 5,000 acre seed farm in southwestern Manitoba on mile 16, just above the US border. And so my husband and son and our two employees are busy cleaning grain all winter and selling seed.
Wow. And how long have you been farming?
It will be my husband's 43rd crop, I think, next year. And he's got his 50-year seed certificate. So he's been a seed grower for many years.
Oh, wow.
And we've been married 40 years next July, on the 4th of July, on Independence
Day. Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Which is an oxymoron, I think, for marriage. But anyway, we celebrate on July 4th.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. So you're a passionate advocate for agriculture and also the families who farm all over North America. So tell me about how you developed the desire that you have today to serve the industry.
Well, I started speaking when I was 9 years old in 4-H, and I've always been a farm kid. And then I became a home economist and worked, and I was drawn and called to Boise with Manitoba agriculture. And so then I had two children, and we just, by the way things worked out, in 1993, I was called on a per diem basis to come into farm families with my flip chart. And that time I didn't have my famous Beanie Baby bull, but my wiring, Chrissy, is for communication and empathy and lifelong learning. And I just really had this desire and passion to see farm families get unstuck, especially with their communication and conflict resolution around how they were passing the farm on to the next generation. And then a couple of years later, in 1995, I was asked by Marie Solway, who was a former columnist with Grain News, which is a farm paper across the Western Prairies, to take her place as a columnist. So I've been writing in Grain News for 25 years this year, and that's where the 5 books have come from. It's when you write 19 times a year. Now, of course, with the internet, they turn into blogs, and after they turn into blogs, they turn into books. So my passion comes from helping people understand that they don't need to be stuck. And I had a really great succession plan in 1992 with my in-laws. And in 1998, 6 weeks after my family's succession meeting with their accountant, my mother died unexpectedly. Oh, wow. So I've had a lot of family bumps along the road that have taught me that someday is not a day on my calendar. And I really want families listening to this message with us today to take this time during the great pause, as I call it, to really, get their affairs in order, because you never know. And I don't come from a fear base. I come from a motivation of how great would it feel to have everybody in your family know what everybody wants, and to create certainty of expectations and clarity of agreements, and then a really good commitment to action. So that's what I'm about as a coach. And I say counseling is about recovery, but coaching is about going forward to what you want your rock and roll farm to look like. And our farm has won awards a couple of times, but it's not about those rewards and awards. It's about the day-to-day culture. And do you have the kind of business and family that everybody's excited to be a part of?
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I know your writings and your blog posts, we highlight them as well on North American Ag, and there's some really great tools there. You have such a good depth of understanding of not only agriculture, but also these relationships that are within the farm. And so
I just reached out to a person in Illinois, actually, who had ordered 2 copies of Farming's InLaw Factor. And I like to call people, especially now with the mail being a little bit less reliable, and tell them it's coming. I don't know when you'll get it. It's coming. But how about if I give you an e-copy? So I send an e-copy to them, and they start reading the book before they get the hard copy. And she, messaged me back, and she was very encouraging, follows my work as you do. But then she said, do you have tools, or could you write about these things? And so when she told me what the gap was for her, then I found a tool in my box that I could, whip back to her digitally. And I think that's, Chrissy, the other thing. There's no more excuse anymore, because meeting with your lawyer, your accountant, any business professional, your coach, your financial planner, even you doing, the life you used to have doing trade shows, the way we sell and connect and the way we help each other comes through this this modality of the internet. And we have time. People will have time this winter to sit down, but if they're afraid to do it by themselves, they just need to reach out and get a facilitator. I've done family meetings with 7 brothers in Kentucky. One guy actually came to me on his phone through the, the front seat of his pickup truck. So, and lawyers will do digital signing with you now. So there's really no reason to not get your affairs in order.
For sure. Yeah. And in your book, Farming's InLaw Factor, you talk about the stresses of in-law tension. So what are some of the tools that you recommend for dealing with those stresses?
Well, the first thing is how you frame conflict. And I put my hand up like this quite often, and I say a lot of farm families are walking around with a dirty filter, just like you wouldn't have a dirty filter in your combine or your tractor. You take care of it right away. What I'm encouraging the mindset shift is to get rid of this filter that, there's too much drama on this farm and we have to avoid each other. I go, no, you need to stop the conflict avoidance dance. And that's actually the name of one of my blogs. So I want to encourage with in-law tension is that you start fresh and you approach the situation as, what am I responsible for? What do I need to change? And I'm curious, Chrissy, how are you thinking? And what are you feeling? And what's working for you? So if you were my daughter-in-law, one of my first questions I would ask you is, Chrissy, what would you like me to do differently? And take responsibility for my behavior, because I can't change you. I can only change me. And we wrote Farming's InLaw Factor. I wrote it with a woman who has her PhD in conflict resolution, who is my friend and neighbor. We spent most of 2014 together on Tuesdays writing the book. And whenever we interviewed women who were in conflict, they just felt like they had no voice. And so the other thing is you have to take charge. You have to grab the bull literally by the horns and decide that you no longer want to sit in this pain of not knowing and what William Bridges calls the neutral zone. So I really encourage your listeners to think about, what are they responsible for? What can they change? And how can they make approach and share their intention? So in conflict resolution, we have this thing called intent, action, effect. And right now I can't read your mind until you talk to me and tell me what's on your mind, and vice versa. And so we need to come to a safe, respectful place of where we can share what's working, what's connected, and what's disconnected. And right now with the tension and emotion around social distancing, physical distancing, not spreading things, and we're hunkered down again right now in Manitoba till December 12th. There's a lot of tension just based around what people are assuming in their head. And so you have to check things, say, Chrissy, are you okay? Things don't seem really good. And you can say, yeah, Elaine, I had a horrible sleep last night, or I'm really worried about X, Y, and Z. And it's just important to remember that you want to create solutions and attack the issue, but not attack the other person.
Right.
And I have great access to a conflict dynamic profile. Any of you listening to this who want to get better at your own conflict online, it's a $55 tool developed by Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I know that my hot buttons, Chrissy, are people who won't talk to me.
Right. Yeah.
Funny about that, eh? Being the coach. Oh, people won't talk to me. And the other hot button I have would be people who are unreliable, who promise me things and then don't follow through and show up for what they've promised. So I would just encourage
yourself, right?
Right. And to know what triggers you, right? And again, the physicality part about not getting good rest. So many people are in tough spots of loss and financial strain right now, and they're borrowing worry for the future. And just really encourage people to just take one day at a time and take care of your physical, emotional, and mental self, all those pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice. And in building your farm legacy, you address the fact that farm families are consciously building something bigger than themselves, but it's so easy to get stuck in the everyday and lose sight of all their goals. So how do you think farm families can overcome that?
Probably 2 words: pay attention. And I was just on a call yesterday where people were, I quite often have families who reach out to me, say in June, and this just happened this week. They reached out to me in June. It's now November. And what happened in all this time was more trauma in terms of angst around combine accidents and people aging and not letting go. And so the farmers are really good at producing with their livestock and with their crops and the technical, and that's all really, really strong. But I have a neighbor just a few miles away. We just did a video called Growing Through Adversity. And he talks about having a growth mindset, not a fixed one. So
Mhm.
don't be fixed on the details of what's happening on your farm, just the production side. Take care of the people side and your own internal well-being. And what is it you truly want? So pay attention, and also have those meetings, Chrissy, like just find a stuffy,
Mhm.
find a flip chart or get post-it notes, those giant ones from Staple. You can slap them up on your kitchen wall and get your Mr. Sketch markers out and start talking to each other about what do you want for the future of this family, and what do you want for the future of this farm. And you pass the bull around. The talking stick means that the person holding the bull gets to share what they're thinking, feeling, needing, and wanting.
Right.
And then when that meeting's over, you just take up your phone and take a picture of all those different pieces of paper. And then you've got to start. You're starting to track what makes people alive, what they're passionate about. You know, we're in the middle of building a brand new seed plant because our 40 plus one is really worn out and not repairable anymore.
Mhm.
And yes, it's an investment, but it's exciting to see energy putting into something that's going to be a real good return on investment and also a good return on energy.
For
And
sure.
don't make, and the other thing I would suggest is don't make assumptions about what other people are thinking, feeling, needing, and wanting. Really discover what that is.
For sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. So if you could give the older generation that are exiting their farms just one piece of advice, what would that be?
You are valued and you have a role.
Mhm.
So even though you're exiting the main decision making of management, you still have meaning and purpose.
Right.
And so find out what that is, and validate the work of others around you. And remember that you have a role as a wise elder and a mentor. And you also get to create and preserve the legacy of the richness of relationship in your family. So be a leader,
Right.
even though your roles are shifting.
Mhm.
Continue to be a leader.
Yeah.
And being clear is kind, as Brené Brown would say. So be
Yes.
clear.
Mhm.
Be clear about what you want and why you want what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the next generation, what do you think of farmers? What do you think is the greatest challenge right now?
I think the greatest challenge with Generation 2 or young farmers is how they can nail down their future, Chrissy, how they can create certainty of equity,
Right.
and how they can have the flexibility to do the farm or operate the business or manage the livestock the way they see.
Mhm.
And it might be different than Gen 1. And so I always like to say different is not wrong, it's just different. And very often when I sit down with young farmers, I say, show me your business plan. Even if it's a one-page sheet, show me what are you excited about doing and how would you run this business?
Mhm.
And then get the courage to have those tough conversations about compensation, about collaborative decision making, about timelines for when management is going to shift and when pieces of ownership are going to transfer.
Mhm.
Quite often I find the young generation feels that they don't have a voice because they haven't taken it. And that's the other thing, is a lot of young farmers, and I don't want to dish on millennials, but if you look at the research and the trends in other industries, young people haven't struggled a lot,
Mhm.
and they don't even want to hear about the 1980s and 90s. They say, oh, quit telling me those stories, you know, that was then and this is now. Well, I think the great pause has given them a different kind of
Mhm.
trial to go through.
Yeah.
And so it's just really important that they understand the importance, both sides of appreciation and encouragement in the heart of the business, and also being clear about, you know, the other disconnect. The next gen does not typically want to work as many long hours as Gen 1 does.
Right.
And so there's a huge fight, quite frankly,
Mhm.
about work-life balance, which of course is not a thing. It's a
Agree.
polarity, because that whole dance between work and play is never done. And that's what a polarity is. It's a problem that
Mhm.
never goes away. It's just something that always has to be managed. So,
Yeah.
and I also really want to stress for young farmers to protect their marriages and their partnerships,
Mhm.
because farming's in-law factor has a brown egg in the middle of the cover. And, you
Mhm.
know, I have daughter-in-laws who say hashtag on Twitter, I am the brown egg.
Mhm.
And they're feeling it. And of course, if there's tension and the foundation of the family is not strong and
Mhm.
that cracks, then that pulls everything else down. And I wrote another blog in 2016. My most popular blog was How to Prevent Divorce on the Farm.
Right.
And you just Google that one and it'll come up. And I had 14 things that you need to pay attention to. And people say, "Well, it can't be that easy." And I say, "Well, it's really up here.
Mm-hmm.
If your son and daughter has embraced a life partner, whether they're married or almost married,
Mm-hmm.
you have no choice then but to bless that person and to see the strengths and skills that you can bring them into your team."
Right. Yeah. Well, that's great. Awesome advice. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was really great to learn more about what you do. And if anyone's interested in learning more, you can head over to northamericanag.com/succession. You can also read Elaine's blog posts on North American Ag and at elainefroese.com. And you can also find a link in the show notes below.
And if people can't spell my name, Chrissy, they just have to Google farmfamilycoach.com and they'll land in the same spot.
Perfect.
So thanks for your encouragement today. All the best to you.
Thanks, you too.